Media manipulation is a series of related techniques in which partisans create an image or argument that favors their particular interests. Such tactics may include the use of logical fallacies, psychological manipulations, outright deception, disinformation, rhetorical and propaganda techniques, and often involve the suppression of information or points of view by crowding them out, by inducing other people or groups of people to stop listening to certain arguments, or by simply diverting attention elsewhere. Before starting the video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. While elements of manipulation and propaganda can be espied in traditional or social media forms, the nature of social media allows for manipulation at a more insidious level. What complicates the picture of algorithmic manipulation on social media is the data used to feed the algorithms, which can often be obtained without informed consent. Amber Sinha, 2018 noted, "Today, data is collected continuously with every use of online services, making it humanly impossible to exercise meaningful consent. The quantity of data being generated is expanding at an exponential rate, with connected devices, smartphones, appliances transmitting data about our usage, and even the smart cities themselves. Data now streams constantly from almost every sector and function of daily life, creating countless new digital puddles, lakes, tributaries, and oceans of information." The influx of hedonic online services include video streaming, social media, video games, has created rather fierce competition for people's attention in what is termed the attention economy, in which every minute of attention and engagement tech companies can squeeze out of users counts. To compete in this environment, tech companies intentionally or unintentionally have adapted practices that have capitalized on varying features of human decision-making and brain physiology to cultivate automatic and uninterrupted use. In total, 81 countries, up from 70 in 2019, are now using organized cyber troops to distribute propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation on social media platforms. These troops are primarily linked to state agencies, but are also used by political parties to undermine the opposition. Of these, 79 countries used human-run accounts, 57 used bots, and 14 used hacked or stolen accounts to share and amplify political messages. Widespread techniques included disinformation and media manipulation, state-backed attacks on political opponents and activists, trolling, and data-driven strategies to micro-target political adverts. The report found evidence of 48 countries, including the UK, US, Russia, and Libya, paying companies to manage propaganda campaigns. This is nearly double the number identified in the ALS 2019 report. These companies tend to market themselves as providing strategic communication services. The report's authors describe this trend as the increasing professionalization of influence campaigns or disinformation for hire. What complicates the picture of algorithmic manipulation on social media is the data used to feed the algorithms, which can often be obtained without informed consent. Since 2009, private companies have been paid more than £43 million to provide these services on an industrial scale. Since 2018, there have been more than 65 firms offering computational propaganda as a service. A group of former Silicon Valley insiders recently issued a stark warning to the app and update-obsessed public. Social media, the web, mobile apps, and other technologies developed to monetize our attention are now eroding the pillars of our society, according to the Center for Humane Technology. The new organization's goal is to push tech companies to create products that benefit society rather than simply manipulating people's behavior for profit. Led by a former Google design ethicist, as well as former managers at Mozilla, maker of the Firefox web browser, and chipmaker Nvidia, the center faces several challenges. Foremost among them is the irony that it will have to rely on social media and the web to reach a large enough audience to have any impact. The group also acknowledges the futility of trying to change the business practices of YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, and other companies that make lots of money by grabbing and holding people's attention. Instead, the organization, which includes a number of entrepreneurs who have already made fortunes helping peddle the possibly addictive technologies in question, will encourage tech companies to design new products that are less distracting and actually reduce the amount of time people spend staring at their screens. Another important aspect of the center's charter is to pressure governments to create greater consumer protections. Traditionally, technology companies such as Apple, Facebook, and Google measured product success by the number of users. A related and often underreported metric, the average number of minutes spent on a device or platform, is increasingly becoming crucial for companies whose business model depends on advertising. These technology companies have a vested interest in keeping users glued to their screens. Industry veterans, including former employees from Alphabet, Google's parent company, and Facebook, have publicly spoken out in recent years and argue that companies incentivize employees to design features that increase time spent by users on their products. Push notifications, autoplay, streaks, and infinite scroll are identified as specific features designed to increase time spent by individual users. It should be noted that much of the criticism surrounds social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. These platforms are accused of offering unpredictable yet rewarding stimuli that encourage habitual use and social affirmation through feedback features such as the like button on Facebook. Justin Rosenstein designed the like feature for Facebook in 2007 to create a means to send little bits of positivity at the click of a button, creating what he now calls bright dings of pseudo-pleasure. Likes were widely successful, and hence they spread to a range of other social media platforms, and now it's the short-term pleasure of this social affirmation that is one of the features which drives people to touch, swipe, or tap their phone more than 2,500 times a day on average. Tech companies can exploit such information to keep people hooked, manipulating, for example, when people receive likes for their posts, ensuring that they arrive when an individual is most likely to feel vulnerable, or in need of approval, or just bored, and such information can be sold to the highest bidder. One report identified the UK government as among the worst offenders for conducting influence operations on social media. The report highlighted the government micro-targeting its political adverts and containing misinformation in these adverts. 90% of the Conservative Party's Facebook adverts in early December 2019 promoted claims labeled as misleading by independent fact-checking charity Full Fact. Our 2020 report highlights the way in which government agencies, political parties, and private firms continue to use social media to spread political propaganda, polluting the digital information ecosystem and suppressing freedom of speech and freedom of the press, said Bradshaw. All Director Professor Philip Howard said, "Our report shows misinformation has become more professionalized and is now produced on an industrial scale now more than ever. The public needs to be able to rely on trustworthy information about government policy and activity." Social media companies need to raise their game by increasing their efforts to flag misinformation and close fake accounts without the need for government intervention so the public has access to high-quality information. Cambridge Analytica and the Trump election campaign are not the only instances of political propaganda on social media being electorally beneficial, referring to Twitter and political messaging as an integral duo in the electoral success of the Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP). In 2014, Vignesh Karthik, KR, Vehang Jumle, and Janathan Karunanidhi 2020 noted, the platform Twitter became an effective tool to amplify certain talking points which are intended to elicit a reaction from the individuals as against a well-thought-out response. This in turn led to Twitter being dominated by groups that act in a concerted fashion, many of which are politically and culturally rooted. Here's a body of evidence, growing yet debated, suggesting that when some technologies are used excessively, the use can interfere with normal functioning, such as with sleep, physical activity, and school performance. What's more, populations such as children and adolescents may be susceptible to excessive use, although age-related prevalence issues have not always been made clear. We say the evidence is debated because some studies suggest that excessive use may be related to prior mental illness rather than to the technology itself. Consequently, some scholarly groups have criticized the concept of technology addiction. Therefore, we use here the term excessive use, which reflects use patterns that are excessive in that they infringe on the normal functioning of users. Excessive use of technologies is not measured by use frequency or time because what is excessive for one person or in one situation may be normal, unharmful, and even beneficial for another person or in another situation. For example, spending 5 hours a day on social media may benefit an unemployed job seeker, but may become excessive when this person starts working. As such, the excessiveness of technology use is typically captured by a range of persistent negative symptoms involving interference with other life responsibilities.